Okay, we're back with part 2. We're going to draw a modified box plot now because we're going to have outliers. So I want to show you how to find the outliers and how we draw that modified box plot. First thing we need to do in order to find outliers is we need the 5-number summary. Okay, the minimum, quartile 1, median, quartile 3, and the maximum. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to find the median. I would encourage you to go along with me because we're going to run into some things here and I want you to have little side notes, okay? Okay, so do this with me, pause the video, write down this data set, and then unpause and let's find this 5-number summary together again. Well, you'll see we'll start crossing things off, right? And like I talked about in the previous video, now this has happened to us. We have 2 numbers in the middle. What do? We add those 2 numbers up, okay? Then we divide by 2, and that's going to give us a median of 21.5. The next question people always wonder is, well, wait, now I need to find quartile 1. We know that quartile 1 is the median of all the numbers below this median. So quartile 1 is the median of these numbers. People always ask though, should I include 21 or not? You do include 21 when you're finding that quartile 1. So when you have 2 in the middle like that, you do include that number for all the numbers below 21.5 because my median is 21.5. 21 is not my median. It was just used to help find it, okay? So I'm going to cross off my numbers. And you can see we're stuck with 2 numbers right there in the middle. We add them up, divide by 2, and we get 19. 19 is equal to our quartile 1. Okay, we're going to do it again. We need to find quartile 3, which is the median of all of the numbers above 21.5. I'm going to cross them off. One at a time. And I'm left with 2 numbers, and I actually need to erase so I get this right. I'm left with 29 and 33, so I'm going to take 29 plus 33 divided by 2. Which gives me 31. 31 is equal to quartile 3. So now I have my 5-number summary. Got to erase so I can see a little bit better. I have 0 for my minimum, comma. I have 19 for quartile 3. I have 21.5 for the median. I have 31 for quartile 3. And I have 54 for the maximum. Now it says use the mathematical definition of an outlier to determine if the set of the data has an outlier. Well, what is this mathematical definition? How do I do this? So let's go below. I have some steps for us. Okay. Step 1, we need to find the 5-number summary. So we already did that. We just found that 5-number summary. Step 2, we need to find the lower fence and the upper fence to determine if there's an outlier. What is the lower fence and the upper fence? It is a border. It is telling us anything that's above that lower or upper fence or below that lower fence. Those numbers are outliers. If you're still confused, that's okay. Let's just find that lower fence and that upper fence right now. And again, guys, these should be written down. Open note tests, all of this should be written down. Okay, let's just find it and then I'll show you what it means. Write down these equations for me. The lower fence is equal to quartile 1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. The upper fence is quartile 3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. Okay, so we just wrote down, what just happened there? We just wrote down what the lower fence equation is and the upper fence equation are. So again, some of you have never found outliers before. You're maybe sitting at home being a little confused. Just follow these steps with me. We'll get it, okay? We got that 5-number summary. Step 1, Step 2, we have this equation down. Now we're going to plug values into the equation. So quartile 1 is 19, so I'm going to write that out. Minus 1.5 times the IQR. We talked about what the IQR was last time, but that's quartile 3 minus quartile 1. Okay, so I'm going to go up to quartile 3, 31, minus quartile 1, which is 19. Okay, careful with your order of operations here. I want everyone to practice typing this in your calculator. Oftentimes what people do is they'll do 19 minus 1.5 first and then multiply it by this. Either type it all in at once or follow your order of operations. So I'm typing it in all at once. And that's a 19 there. And I got 1. So my lower fence is equal to 1. My upper fence, quartile 3, we know quartile 3 is 31. Okay. Plus 1.5 times the IQR. So my IQR is 31 minus 19. Again, I gave you that formula in the part 1 notes. I'm going to type it in all at once. I am not going to add these together and then multiply because that's not following the order of operations. So 31 plus 1.5 times 31 minus 19. And that gives me 49. So UF for upper fence and LF for lower fence. Now, what does that mean, my lower fence and my upper fence? Okay, you're going to write this down and then I'm going to explain. So pause it and write it down. Okay, what that means is if we have any number in our data set that is less than the lower fence, that is considered an outlier. Or any number that is greater than the upper fence, that's considered an outlier. So these fences give us these boundaries. Anything outside of the boundaries, those are considered the outliers. So let's go ahead and let's identify and see if we have any outliers based off this mathematical rule that we just used, okay? So we showed all our work down here, used the mathematical definition of an outlier was what we did. That's that lower fence and that upper fence to see if there's an outlier. We want to see, is there any number that is less than my lower fence? So that's 1 here. And we have 0. That would be a lower outlier, okay? And then any number greater than the upper fence. So we're going to see if we have anything greater than 49. And we do, that's 54 right there. Let's see what these numbers are. Yeah, that's 54. Okay, so 54 is also an outlier. Since we have outliers, we need what we call a modified box plot. Well, how do I do that? A modified box plot, that's our last thing that we need to do. When we draw our modified box plot, okay, again, step 4. The first thing we want to do when we draw that modified box plot is we want to still mark down the 5-number summary, okay? So let's do that now. That 5-number summary is 0, 19, okay, 21.5, 31, and 54. We can still go ahead and we can put a rectangle around our quartiles and a line through our median. But now here's the catch. We have some outliers. This one right here is an upper outlier. Okay, so our whisker cannot go out that far. Where does our whisker have to stop? What we need to do is we need to go back up and we need to look at the data set. 54 is an outlier. So that stays a dot right there. But we need this whisker. Well, where does the whisker go out? It does not go to the upper fence. Some people think it should go out to the 49 because that's the upper fence, but it's not. That's not what you do. The whisker needs to go out to the next biggest number in your data set. This whisker needs to go out to the next biggest, not 54 because it's an outlier, but 45 because that's the next biggest number. So I'll put a dot there and draw my whisker out to 45. The same thing on the lower end, okay? Normally I would draw my whisker all the way out to 0, but I am not going to do that because 0 is an outlier. A common mistake is people think, well, I'm going to draw it to 1 then because that's the lower fence, and that is not what you do. You need to go and you need to say, well, what is the next lowest number? Okay, 0 is typically my min, but again, the whisker doesn't go out that far. It goes to the next lowest one, which would be 16, which it looks like I almost got it there. 16 is probably right there. Okay, so what should we have learned? We should have learned how to find our outliers by using this rule right here, knowing that if there's any number less than the lower fence or any number greater than the upper fence, those are outliers. Then once we know that we have outliers, how do we change that box plot? How do we modify it to show that we have outliers? All right, guys, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.